Welcome to another exciting show with me, Vance. That's right, Kopi with Vans. As usual, every Wednesday, 9 p.m., I will be live as well as our viewers. Today's topic, let's jump to the today's topic is mental resilience, what we need to know. As you all know, after the pandemic, now as it became the endemic, and there's a lot of issues going on still. People are still covering, and so today's topic will give us a very deep insight of what exactly has happened and what will be happen in the upcoming years. Well, nobody can predict, but we have our in-house guest speaker. He's a very well-known speaker with Kopi events over the past 2 years. We have been connected just virtually, and just I think about a couple of months back, and we just met. And this gentleman, I'm going to pull him in, is Doctor Arivinder Singh HS. Hello,
Hi, good
Doctor.
evening, everyone. Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you? Hi, Vance. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, and I just am having my copy with this on it.
Ah, there you go. That's now in Ipoh right now, right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. It has crossed over the border. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor. I mean, as usual, Doc, before we jump into the topic, of course, every week there will be new viewers who's joining us. So if you can do your introduction, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. My name is Arivinder. I'm a medical officer by training. I have a master's in health research, and currently I'm a fellow in a PhD in epidemiology and statistics in community medicine. And part of my thesis is actually to talk about mental health. We look at mental health, especially in sports athletes, sport fitness, sports athletes, and their mental health towards it, and certain criteria of certain different aspects in mental health. So when Vance approached me today and he talked about mental resilience, what we need to know, I said, Vance, we have to do it. It's regardless whether I'm free or not, we have to do
Um,
it because it's something which is very
but
important.
but having said that, Doc, I know what exactly has happened in the behind the stage. Just right before 9:30, you were like just literally jumping from seat to seat. And thank you. I mean, I really appreciate that putting in the effort
Yep,
to be the guest speaker always, in-house guest speaker always. You've been giving us very deep informations on all these topics. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much.
most welcome.
So yeah, here we are, viewers. We are now in Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. We are on LinkedIn. We are in Facebook, and also in all other social media, which we will be going in. And today's topic, mental resilience, what we need to know. And Doctor, I mean, this probably our maybe more than five or more than six. I can't remember right now. We talked a lot about mental resilience, and mental resilience seems to be the been searched or rather been used all the time, mental resilience. But before we even go into the interventions and also possibly what is the future hold for us right now, for those already been think that they already have felt burnout, and we will look into the interventions. But let's talk about mental resilience, Doc. I mean, where we were 2 years ago in terms of mental resilience and now.
We were in two different planets. It's two different planets. The reason is COVID 19 has come in. Even if we think that COVID 19 is at the tail end, I mean, BA5, Omicron aside, you you will actually now we actually see a lot of people who are coming in with long COVID. Now with long COVID itself, you can find a lot of people who are having mental health issues. Why? They are becoming more depressed, they're becoming more anxious, they're becoming more stressed. Some of them are actually having a lot of coping disabilities at the moment. Reason why they can't walk as what they used. They used to get breathless very fast. They may have been an active person. They want to go and run. They get breathless very fast. Why? It's because unfortunately they get COVID and then they don't see a proper healthcare professional to follow up. And what happens is a lot of this time this mental health component actually slips and escapes. Unfortunately, they may be suffering inside. So one of the things which we have to talk to our viewers is about mental resilience. Now, if you find that there are certain things happening, you're low mood, you're having a bit of depression symptoms, you don't feel like eating, you don't find anything pleasurable, you have to detect this and you have to immediately overcome it. The most important thing is what is actually happening out there that cause people to actually have depression. It could be multiple factors, but whatever the factors is, it is most important to identify it and get it sorted.
Thank you, doctor. I mean, I clearly understand where we are right now. But of course, when we talk about mental resilience as well, um, is there any kind of indications that I mean, there is indications clearly shown that people are still struggling toward, or trying to look for remedies that, they can apply to themselves. I mean, that's where we are heading right now. We'll be
Right.
looking at interventions later on. But is there any kind of signs or indications, doctor? I mean, you are a doctor. Someone comes to you, look at him, something is wrong. But when they say give you a little bit of hints, probably you'll understand what exactly has happened. So in that area we are, what will your observation?
So it is normally when we say in medical terms, it is the physicians. It is on the basically on the physicians picking up rate or the pickup skills or the high curiosity or the high identification or high in depth whatever the physician does to pick it up. Because you and I know, Vance, you can see people walking around us. They are absolutely normal, but they're suffering inside. That's a very big thing. And the only person who can catch that is that person himself or herself. And maybe one or two very, very close or confided family friends
Right.
or friends who may pick up the symptoms. It can be anything. It can be a person changing in attitude, a person, a very joyous person, a very jolly person, suddenly becomes very quiet, sits aside, refuse to talk to anybody else, keeps everything to him or herself,
Mm,
refuse to go out, refuse to participate in activities, poor eating skills. That means last time they could eat a whole plate of, let's say, kway teow, but now they can't even eat. We're talking about 2 spoons of kway teow. They have loss of mood. They have early awakening in the morning. They just
mm.
wake up for no reason. They come with dark circles around their eyes
Yep.
because they can't sleep, or they have very short periods of sleep. Some of them
Mm,
have anhedonia. Anhedonia means they just have no feelings at all, or they don't have any joy or excitement. Like some people went, like when I met you in Singapore, the
yeah.
first thing was, bro, we have to go and have a cup of coffee. That actually found that spirit, like, oh, okay, we're going to do something nice. But one day when somebody comes up and say, hey, let's go for a cup of coffee, and you were like, no need lah, that sort of thing. That are signs which you need to pick up. So and it is also up to the person. Because Vance, I think I was discussing with you a little earlier.
Yep.
You have a big spectrum of people who are actually having mental health issues. In fact, some people who are who do not have mental resilience. Why? They blame themselves for everything. um, they worry about everything. They judge everything and everybody, or they always believe that they are the loser. And
Yep.
a lot of people who give up, a lot of people, and this is very common. I don't know, especially in this part of the world, where
Yep.
people say, okay lah, whatever lah, that sort of thing. That okay, whatever, sometimes is good. Sometimes is good because because it prevents a person from worrying. But when you do it too much, you become negligent completely out of everything. So that is also a sign. Someone who
Right.
is very meticulous, who cares about everything, suddenly they say, I don't care lah, whatever lah. When that happens multiple times, it is something to be a cause of also to worry of.
Looks like, this COVID-19, wherever this thing came from, all right,
Right.
has actually caused a lot of implications. And because of that, people are losing mood, losing sensations of sleep, or even food taste. Everything is happening at the same time.
Yes.
Maybe this is the biggest challenge for the medical science, or even for medical professionals at this point of time, because you're seeing cases that you may not have seen in the past 3 years ago, or even 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, those viruses that came in. But right now, so much of things, and because of that, the impact is now coming in. Doctor, you have said very well. That's why we look at the parrots of perceptions. So viewers will be thinking, hey, what is these parrots of perception? So parrots of perceptions there are basically about 7 of them. Doctor, when we look at this, each and every one of these parrots, they basically come and sit on a person's head, or probably in the shoulder. wherever it can be. But looking at that itself, Doctor, I mean, the first is the blamer.
Mhm.
Like what you mentioned earlier, that blamer is actually someone who blames of other people or the circumstances for their situations. Doctor, they can be even anger, frustrations. They always do that to me. It's their fault. How could they be? So it's always about putting blame on other people rather than reflecting on individual.
Mhm.
What is your take
Mhm.
on that, Doctor?
So again, you have, like you have put there, multiple spectrum. You have the blamer, the warrior. Not warrior. You're supposed to be a warrior, but you become a warrior. So
Yeah,
some people, they listen,
yeah,
they mishear it. The
yeah,
judge, the faulty, the loser, the give up, and the whatever. The blamer is a person who says, uh, okay, every time when something goes wrong, and it is not every time that it is at that person's fault. It may be somebody else's fault, but
yeah,
the faulter is when a blamer is when it always says that, oh, it is because of this, it is because of that, it's because of this. Like what you said, they do not reflect upon themselves. So we were always told in medical school that when everything is one way, you must always look at the other side of the road. You see, even if you have a one-way street, right, friends? Like when I went to
yeah,
Singapore, there are a few one-way streets.
yeah,
If the
correct.
one-way streets work, but there is no one-way street coming back, the whole system is going to jam. Correct or not?
True.
You go to one
Yeah,
place, you can't come back. You can't come back. So that is why it is always important that I believe that every road in this world is always two ways. It may not be next to each other, they may be far apart, but they're always two ways. So it's always looking at one side and also looking at the other point of view. So even in medical school, in psychiatry, when we did psychiatry, a lot of people, when you see a patient talking incoherently, they're talking like,
right.
now we're talking about roads, and then suddenly you start talking about tea plantation, and then suddenly you start talking about tin mining. There's nothing which is connecting to each other.
Yeah.
So some of us found it maybe a bit hilarious, but the lecturer always used to tell us, what about you thinking that you are in that person? Do you think it is actually the person who is actually wanting to say such things? Actually, it's not. I'm sure given a chance, nobody would want to say that. So it's always a two-way street. So even whatever in medicine, whenever you want to give someone help, the person must be able to receive help. If they don't, it doesn't happen. Because there are some people, even you give them treatment, they will say, oh, because of the medicines I'm doing, this is happening to me. You can't actually
Yeah.
say that. So that is the blamer. It is, I won't say it's the biggest chunk of the pie, but it is it's becoming a bigger chunk where people keep blaming other people for their shortcomings.
Doctor, we just covered the first of the parrot of the seventh. I mean, seven, 6 more to go. But somehow or other, I can relate to this because it could be the attitude. Before we even jump into the next parrot, could be the attitude of a particular person that one of these symptoms or whether one of these parrots come and sit on top of his head and then controls. Could be
It's
the
not
attitude.
only it's not only attitude, it is actually indoctored attitude. That means as a child, whatever experiences, as a teenager, whatever experiences they've gone through, if every time when somebody is at fault, it's clear, you can see that person is at fault, and then that person starts blaming everything, it becomes
Yeah.
indoctored that if I do something wrong, I have to start blaming someone. Even if you look at that, it is actually quite close to the faulty as well, because the faulty is it's not me, it is someone else. Oh, that is wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, why didn't you wake up early? Oh, my alarm clock was spoiled. Oh, the electricity in the house went off. Oh, it was raining. It's never, I'm sorry, it was my mistake, I didn't set the alarm. So it is somebody else's fault. So the faulty, that those two can actually be actually quite connected to attitude. Even the judge, if you
Right.
look at it, the person
Yeah.
who keeps judging, oh, this one, this is wrong because it's not done that way. Oh, that one is wrong because it's not done that way. Result maybe have been perfect. Result may have been the best outcome, but still something
Yeah.
is wrong. So, like I think they say in Murphy's Law, right? When something has to go wrong, it will go wrong. So,
Eh,
but,
Doctor, when you say talking about the judge parrot, is it that the 100% or the perfectionist? Is that in that role that person thinks that he is perfect and then he start judging and that could be the parrot?
that could be one of the reasons, or an overdrive from a parent to achieve perfection in the child. So, I think all of us, even I myself, can be faulted for that at sometimes. When sometimes you just go and you tell the child, okay, I want you to write this sentence down. The person has written the sentence down. Then they have not put the full stop. Then you put the full stop. Then suddenly you start going into grammatical commas and this and that.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
very minute thing. What's that start happening very very often? Then you will find that the child will be like, oh, is this what is supposed to happen? Because that's what they are actually reflecting. And that is when you get the give up. Because you know what? Whatever I do is not going to happen. So I give up. So it may not be something which they need to give up, but because they are indoctrinated with that this is something that's going to happen, I give up from now on. So that is why you must always put, or it can be the other way. It can be whatever I do is going to be wrong. Whatever lah, I just do and I submit lah.
yeah, yeah.
So
The easy way out. The easy way out.
correct. So if you look
Yeah.
at all of it, or you can also say, oh, because I'm doing it, I'm going to lose. That's it. I cannot win.
Right.
So what happens is you will find that if you look at it very carefully, all the 7 things, they are actually interlinked. They can be 2 in 1, 3 in 1, 4 in 1. Unfortunately, it is how the world has indoctrinated. I don't only blame parents. I blame superiors. I blame people who are superordinates of people who are subordinates. So they may demand something which is so demanding. That is where pressures happen, and that is why. So people these days, because they have to deal with COVID, they have to deal with their symptoms. They
Right.
can't put it on top. It's like a lorry which is already full. I'm driving at a
Yeah.
full capacity. Now you keep
Correct.
trying to load, something is going to give way. Either the tire is going to give way, or something is going to fly out, or the police is going to stop it. So either way, it is something which is wrong. So that is why I think everybody has to give and take in this. That is why even when you will notice, when a lot
Yeah.
of people work from home, I don't know whether you read this article, they actually were looking forward to go back to work. So some of them they
Yes.
say, well, no, when I sit at home, the boss thinks that I am there all the time and I am supposed to be there for them 24/7.
Yeah.
So yeah,
When you mentioned this statement, it also gives me to reflect on this because when everyone was going to office, this is
mm,
pre-pandemic or COVID-19. People will, sometimes we can even say the warrior, the judge, oh, Monday blues. Oh, they like, oh, whatever. It looks like it is like a constant flow of energies. When
yeah,
something is taken away from you, then you realize how precious that was to you. It's always we
right.
always want things that is not ours. We're always looking for the other side, which is greener. But somehow or other, doctor, when we talk about these parrots of perceptions and these 7 parrots, um, do you observe in even in your when you're practicing, or even right now as you give more talks, that any of these parrots could be in one of us? Do you
I think
think it could be in one of us, or
I
it
think being
interchanges?
Asian, I think being an Asian, we always strive for perfectionism. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about any race. I said everybody.
Yeah,
You
true.
go you go to India, you will find that. You go to China, you go to find that. You go to Malaysia, you go to Indonesia. There will be people who strive for perfection. So
Right.
I think it is that Asian drive in us. Now, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. So I think everything goes to about limits. You must give and
Right.
take. Of course, basic things you must get it right. But when you're going for the finer points, you need to train people. So
Right.
um, we do a lot of I do personally, I do a lot of different clinical research training for a lot of people, and you
Okay.
will find that the same people make the mistakes over and over again. But as you tell them and you go along, because it is not an easy subject, neither is
Yep.
this it is, if a person is angry and you tell them don't act angry or don't be angry, it's a fail course. Or if a person is sad and you can try and cheer them up, but you cannot tell them don't be sad. Because when you tell them don't be sad, you're telling them to do something. And somehow or other, I find that our Asian mentality, it becomes a challenge, and you're actually building a wall that way. So I don't
So
think
now,
it is a bad. Yep.
sorry, doc. So now I'm going to pause you here because so now we think that these 7 parrots that constantly changes. I mean, of course, we don't realize it, but sometimes we do understand. Hey, we are heading towards this one of these parrots. But do you think it also comes back to mental resilience? One can train not to fall into these 7 parrots.
Correct. So what that was the next point actually I was going to say. So it becomes to a point that you have to recognize it yourself before somebody tell you. Because once somebody starts noticing it, is perhaps not late, but it's perhaps advanced. Let's use the word advanced. But if you find it out early, then you can actually revert and change your ways before it becomes habit. I was always told the word habit is spelled HABIT. You remove the H, a bit is still left. You remove the
That's right.
A bit
Yeah.
is still left. You remove the B, it is still left. So
It.
you you once it becomes habitual, I think it is a bit difficult. But unfortunately, after attending this talk, you will realize that a lot of us are the way where we are a certain way. So it becomes to another, this is now the other side of the road which I'm talking about.
Right.
You may be that way, so the other person must perhaps accept that a person is in this particular way, and
Mhm.
perhaps try and accommodate whatever they can, but of course not detrimental to themselves. Like, if you know that a person is a perfectionist, whatever it is, so maybe you may spend a little bit more extra effort to make sure that everything is fine. But if you are
Right.
doing that and still that person finds a mistake, that means you know it's not your fault. You already tried your best. So that is
Right.
why I believe that whenever we look at it, we have to look at it two ways. Why is that person demanding perfection out of me? Or maybe I'm not that perfect. So, or I'm not that good up to that level. So maybe you want to improve yourself. So once you improve yourself, that person is demanding and you are here, then slowly you start meeting in the middle where there is a
Right.
compromise. Yeah.
So, doctor, I mean, now we talked about the seven parrots, and we dissected it. True, doctor, you are. I mean, as a surgeon, you be. Doctor, I mean, we talked about the attitude, we talked about the behavior, we talked about these one of these parrots. Um, I'm going to come into a little bit on the ego, right? So no one will like to tell someone, "Hey, you are this." You know, people will always don't like you. We always are happy to receive comments and praises, but the moment when these type of things comes in, that's why these issues all will be in. But do you think ego is also be part of these seven parrots?
I think ego may be a mix of everything because you can say that a person who blames everyone is having ego. The warrior, maybe not so much. The judge, definitely. The faulty, yes. The
Yeah.
loser, maybe not so much. The give upper, I'm not too sure. The whatever, yes. So I would say half of it is actually boiling down to ego. But
Right.
I think, um, again, why do people have ego? It's because, you see, I always tell people this. I don't recommend anyone to do it. Please do not do it at all. But I always remember that we were shown in psychiatry where a child is holding a cobra in the hand. Of course, I don't know how they did it, how the photographer did it.
Right. Right.
The
Right.
child is holding the cobra in the hand and the child is laughing.
Right. So
You
there's
know
no
why?
fear.
There's no fear because the
Yeah.
fear is put into the child and said the cobra is going to bite you and you are going to get hurt. So
Yeah.
the child, the person that doesn't, that you're not put it into, it's always like an empty glass. Whatever you put is
Yeah.
whatever you're going to get. You put orange juice, you're going to get orange juice. You put coffee, you're going to get coffee. You put tea, you're going to get tea. You put water, you're going to get water. You put chocolate and also a malt drink, you're going to get a chocolate malt drink. That is how it is. So I think you must be very careful of what you put inside. We are always told in psychiatry that the sand art, people like to do sand art. Sand
Yeah.
art, when you do sand art to try and make a picture, every pebble must be accounted for correctly and nicely. So whatever you put inside is going to make a difference to your entire picture. So whenever
Right.
you put anything, nobody is asking you to fill it up immediately, but as you put in, make sure you put the pebbles correctly. There will be mistakes here and there, but as long as you
Right.
correct it, you will get a beautiful picture out of it. So I always believe that whatever is being put has been put into it. So sometimes it's a bit difficult that if it has been put into it for us to change. That is where the ego comes in because it's all compact. To go down to that level, you have to remove a lot of that sand to go down to that middle. So I think if you're a type of person who is willing to make changes, then yes, I think it is
Right.
something
I
which is
mean,
best to identify.
imagine, doctor, if we are having a conversation with the whatever, they say, "Hey, bro, come, let's go for coffee." Whatever lah.
Mm.
you
That
know,
one,
we
that
will
one is
walk.
okay. That is not too bad. That is whatever. If you ask a person, hey, what to do, huh? Whatever lah. Okay, we go here. Then you find the flaw. Hey, I don't want to go there lah. But you say
Okay,
whatever. What?
okay. Now a test for you. Okay, now a test for you. I've already covered out whatever. You ask the whatever guy or girl, he will say whatever. How about blamer? You tell him, you ask him for a coffee. What do you think the blamer will tell you?
Tomorrow he get gastric, he will say it's your fault because you gave him coffee.
How about the
So
judge?
the
What
judge is, why is this fellow giving
coffee?
me coffee? There must be something he wants from me. That is one. The
Okay.
the faulty is the coffee shop he's going to take me is going to be bad. The loser is, oh my god, this fellow, what is the problem? I cannot give him whatever he wants. The warrior is, oh
Okay.
my god, I drink coffee tomorrow, I'm going to get gastric. The give upper is the fellow is, oh my god, I wanted juice and the fellow is giving me coffee. You know what? I can't do this anymore. So I think with a cup of coffee we
So
have solved all seven parrots.
so just a simple a step, right? Just going for coffee, and we can actually see the character, or the rather the parrot as sitting. And I think they don't really manifest, but I think they operate in a certain SOP of their own world, and that is where they choose to believe in that aspect. And then it's pretty hard unless they realize it and they try to change it to be better, to fit into the world. If not, they will be just an individual behaving towards these seven parrots. We are going to go to the next one, Doc. I mean, that is where this coming in. Yeah, Doc, you're going to say something?
No, I was actually going to tell you that a lot of
Yeah,
HR in very big companies, they
yeah,
actually train in human behavior. That's why they go for a cup of coffee or they go to a bar to meet a potential client or candidate to join
yeah.
their particular organization or company and all that, because they test for all of this. They want to see what are their normal reactions towards certain type of things that happen, how you speak to the person serving you, whether you pick up your tray and go. When I was in the UK, we being Asians, many years ago, I'm talking about 15 years ago, after you eat the trays in, let's say, a fast food restaurant, we
Right.
normally leave it there and somebody comes and picks it up, right? But in
Yeah.
the UK and other places in Europe, they don't. You actually have to carry it and put it. And that habit picked up in me. So even when I come back till today, one day I was sitting down with someone. He was not a recruiter or anything. He is just a friend. And he was like, bro, you are actually picking up and putting it. I said, yeah. I said, why not? He said, normally people don't do that here. I said, I know. I said, I realized I was born here. But I said, I think it is a proper habit. And now you can see as we go on, especially in Singapore, when I was in Singapore, you notice the culture. You finish eating, take your plate and go back to the counter, or you put it to where the person is collecting their plates. Doesn't mean that they have a person who's collecting the plates, you have to leave it. What I'm trying to say is these are all things that can be altered. And the seven things which they normally look for, I was told by HR, are the parrot.
Okay. I mean, we talked about it over the coffee,
Yeah.
each of them. But we are really worried for the whatever, because you say, hey, bro, let's go for coffee. Whatever, lah, you say what? So each individual of them
Yeah.
got a different character. So
Correct.
we know who these guys are. So viewers who are watching this, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also in YouTube. We will be in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And today with me is Dr. Arivinder Singh HS. We are covering on the topic of mental resilience, what we need to know. So, Doc, we are going to go to the three P's. We talk about the parents of perceptions. Now we're coming to the three P's of psychology. I mean, this is also talked about a lot in the positive psychology interventions. But before we go into the interventions, let's talk about the three P's, Doctor. Personalization. What is your observation and what is your advice?
So, I mean, everything, I would say that, um, you know, when we talk about medicine, right? Certain medication you will find, Vance, you will ask anybody, when they say, I take medication A, I feel better. But when one poor person who is the same, maybe the same age, same race, whatever, and the person say, hey, you take medicine A, same condition, you take medicine A, you're feeling better. Oh, yeah, I never feel better, I take medicine B. Now, medicine is coming personalized, okay, personalization. The way I am going to treat a person who comes to be a blamer will be
Yeah.
different to a person who is another person who is the blamer because of their environment factor. So it is not as simple as a self prescription. I think the most important thing is to pick up the symptoms. But I think whenever you're treating a patient or treating this, it's very individualized. Like, for example, if you talk about a person having symptoms more at night, and you tell the person, okay, I'm going to give you this medication, you will feel a bit drowsy, but you are going to sleep at night. But anyway, it's night. But that fella is actually a security guard who works night duty. He's not
Yep.
going to take his medication. So the personalization is gone. So that is why you
Right.
have to tailor everything according to personalization. So a person who is very receptive, you tell the person, okay, this is the problem which we notice in you. They
Okay.
may accept it. But a person who is really very staunch or very egoistic, you will have a different time of a difficult time of telling how to actually break that ice with that person. So
Right.
I would
Right.
say the basic of pervasiveness and also permanence. So basically,
Yeah.
it is how you're going to do, and it is how you're going to break that barrier and how you're going to maintain. You see, it's easy to break the barrier, but you see, some of them are, you can tell them they can change for a short bit, but like I said, a habit, even after you remove everything, the bit and it is still there. So sometimes they go back. So they need constant, how shall I say, it's not a boosted dose, but constant reminders or constant evaluation to tell them that, look, this is what is happening, this is what should be
Yeah.
happening. And they will actually fall under better circumstances, but it may take some time.
Right. Doctor, I mean, psychology is one of the biggest, I will not say challenge. It's been talked about at this current 1 2 years. I mean, in fact, past 3 years. Before that, people were just, taking it everything for granted. And right now, so many things happen, right? During the COVID, people lost their jobs, lost their families, they relocate back. A lot of things that happened. And also, when we looked at the interventions, probably people don't have these interventions within them. Okay, let's say, okay, we talked about it. One guy is coming to you with all dark circles. Probably he's not taking care of himself. Probably he's not sleeping. He's under stress. He's under targets. Maybe he's working very hard. To impress his bosses. um the problem here is why people are not turning inwards. That's why we are looking at in terms of the interventions. They can use the interventions, but could that the intervention be a temporary? If I get a burnout, I go for 2 days or 3 days holiday, I come back, I get recharged, but then again I fall into the same burnout cycle. So is there any permanent that can fix the problem, or
So
is
I
it
think
a
it is.
reoccurring issue?
Yeah, so I think it is basically down to the individual. Some people cannot break that cycle. Like, for example, a lot of people ask me, Arvinder, you work 12, 13, 14 hours a day, you work on weekends. How do you do it? So for me, I find work fun. So for me, it's fun when I find work, it's fun. So the way you're going to break my cycle may be very different from a person who goes to work and struggles to finish the 12, 13 hours and come out. So I think that every cycle, even though it may be the same, but it will actually reflect differently on people. And the solution may not be permanent, it may be temporary. Like, for example, you're saying that I work so much, I get burnt out, so I go away for
Yeah.
a weekend and I come back. But
Yeah.
you may actually use the 2 or 3 days to reflect, what am I doing wrong in that particular cycle? Is there any way I can actually overcome that cycle? Like, for
Right.
example, what is burning you out the most is you have to travel from A to B, which takes you 3 hours by car. But maybe if you use the MRT, for example, I'm going to take maybe one hour or something of that sort. So you can actually make the changes, and that is how you figure it out. And then you will find that you're actually reducing. So a lot of people, they want to unwind that 2 or 3 days, which is good. They want to go away from everything, but it's also time for you to reflect. That is the way where you're thinking here. Now you have to think
Right.
this way,
Right.
or you have to think this way. How do I go about it? Because you remember, if you have any road, if the road becomes crowded, you actually have a flyover. So you have to start creating your own flyovers, thinking, all right, this is how.
Okay.
Of course, don't I'm not asking you to cut corners, but what I'm asking you is, how can the things become better? How can things become better? And that is how we actually move forward.
So what I'm getting, Doc, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's going to be a cycle, but you need to reflect. You need to observe.
Yep.
You need to find within what will be the best. Like for yourself, 13 hours of work is fun for you because you enjoy seeing your patients and enjoy doing your research and papers, whatever that you're doing. So you enjoy it. But doc, I'm coming back to the seven parrots again. But if we look at the seven parrots very carefully at this point, of course, we ask about the copy section with them. Individually, we know what they're going to respond. But I'm targeting right now at the warrior because somehow or other, doc, correct me if I'm wrong again, out of these seven, the one it seems to be very genuine because people are worrying what will happen if I don't finish my job up to the perfection. Because if not, my boss will start to target me. So they're always in this constant pressure, and then they become the warrior. So could we say that the warrior is in a safe zone compared to all the other
I,
stuff, or
I don't
none of
think
that?
I don't think the warrior is in a safe zone. They may be in fact more predisposed to other things compared to the rest. Like
Yeah,
for example, the whatever. The warrior is actually better. The whatever is actually, if you ask me, in this condition, is better off than
exactly.
the warrior because okay lah, the first scold lah. What do you want me to do? You know. But the warrior is like, oh
Yeah,
my god, the fly is going to pull me, and that is going
yeah,
to
yeah,
affect
true.
that person. So
Yeah,
for the whatever, the way I would say is, I think you have to be a bit more meticulous in your work. But the warrior is,
okay,
I'm going to say, hey, look at the whatever, the fruit doesn't care at all. So I think maybe you should just take a
right.
chill pill, just try and relax a bit, because it's about striking that balance. It's like here and here, you must get everybody to hear. But this is the disharmony, and which I'm going to come back to the point which you mentioned just now.
Yeah,
You're trying to break the cycle, and then you come back into the cycle. But even if you have
right,
a new cycle of things, in that new cycle you may actually experience
right,
new problems. So as you go along, things will actually change. So that is why they always reflect. Many years ago, when you look at channels, documentary channels, international
right.
documentary channels, they actually show you facts for 10 to 12 minutes, because the human span of attention can last to that. But lately, when you see, it's 5 to 7, especially after gadgets are out, because our attention gets distracted after 5 to 7 minutes. So,
You're right.
if you go and look at older documentaries, a lot of people are going to say, "Hey, why the thing so long? There's no break in between." But the new the newer, the older guys, when they look at you, hey, what lah? I see the thing for 2 minutes, suddenly got advertisement. So you wonder why is that happening? It is simply because the way the mindset is winning, we are coming to new cycles, and the new cycles change. So that is why we have to move forward with things. Another thing, you may have some people who still want to use a typewriter. But because nobody
Right.
has introduced them to the computer, once they look at the computer, hey, it's so much easy, lah. I no need to correct with using correction tape. I no need to. So I can actually do everything and then print up the document. So when you do that, then it becomes better. So sometimes it is an adaptation of your environment and change. So not only on that
Doc,
person.
at this point of time, I'm going to put you in a very, very difficult situation at this period of time, right? It's live, it's going in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I'm going to put you in a very difficult position. Okay, imagine you are a big boss, all right? You are running a multi billion company, all right? You're going to fire 3% from here. Who will you fire?
Oof.
The blamer? Okay, I'm going to first say fire first, and then you're going to train the other three. So we're just going to compare. All right, we're just going to see who will you fire, or do you think
That's a
you will train
that's a,
all the three and keep them?
if I have to possibly fire someone, I'll ask somebody else to do it. I won't do it. So
Okay,
that's what
okay,
that's what that's
okay,
what big I've learned from big entrepreneurs before. But anyway,
okay.
to be very fair, I think it is. Let's put it in a more lighter sense. I think it is more difficult to fix the blamer, the judge, and the faulty, because the blamer, the judge, and the faulty feels that there is nothing wrong with them. The warrior,
Right,
the loser, the give, and even maybe the whatever, those four. But the warrior, the loser, and the give upper, they accept. They always feel that there's something wrong with them, but they actually is perhaps a bit easier to work on them, because they think they are the fault or they are the problem.
yeah,
So it is easier to work on them. But when somebody else thinks that everything else is wrong, it's a bit difficult to fix them. It's not impossible. It's very, very possible. But I think it is a, if you go to any meeting and you look and you sit and see quietly, the person who keeps blaming, the person who is the judge, the person who is the
Yeah.
faulter, and the person who is the whatever, the meeting never goes well for them.
Imagine seven of them doing a meeting together. The most fruitful
I
of the
dread to
meeting in
think
the
of it.
entire.
I dread to think
But
of it. I in
but,
fact,
but, but I'm also focusing back again to the whatever. Do you think you can train the whatever? Because whatever you're going to say, he's going to say whatever. Do you think there
until
is
they
chance?
accept until they accept that
There you go.
saying whatever is not the way, then you
Yeah.
have a big problem. Then you have a very big problem.
Right.
So I think the whatever must understand that even though it is good to sometimes just ignore, but you cannot be ignorant. So
Right.
once you become ignorant, um, especially in my line of work, you know, patient comes in sick, this and that. If you worry, it's better to be a warrior than to be the whatever, because if you're whatever, a person's life is at stake.
That's
So it is
okay.
better to
You
be,
can't use that.
yeah, it's better to be a warrior. But too much of worry, like for example,
Yeah.
there are some people who cannot get their mind off certain things. So you have to tell them that look, it's, the best example I can give you is a person who goes to a shopping mall and lock their car. They walk 100 meters in front, about to
Yeah.
enter the escalator or the elevator or the lift. Hey,
Yeah.
did I lock my car? The warrior
Uh-huh.
will be like, oh my god, I better go and check. That's a good thing.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
whatever is, hey, never mind, I have auto lock, it'll lock by itself. You don't even know whether somebody has gone in the car, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or something you've lost, or you have left something so important behind, you don't know.
Yep.
So the warrior, it will be a bit easier to work with them. I'll say, look, maybe you can go and check. The moment you check that you have locked, you can be at peace, you can be at calm. Because there is a type of thing called obsessive compulsive disorder. They are seeing the car being locked, but they must come back and see it again and again
Okay.
and again and again. So that is a bit difficult. The whatever guy, here is where I worry, because the whatever will say, I never mind lah, lock lah, not lock, just too bad lah. Somebody will come take my stuff and go off, not my problem, even though it's that person's problem. So it's a bit more
Right.
difficult to work with that, because you will want to actually tell this person that look, these are the consequences that can happen. And sometimes when you tell them the consequences, it hits them. Like, oh, okay, you know what?
Right.
I think I should do that. This simple social experiment you can try. You just see those people. When you go to a shopping mall, when you're going in and out from from the car park, you will actually see all these two main people.
Mhm.
The
Right.
one
Right.
more is the whatever got two types. They will ask you, or the warrior got two types also. They will ask the person who came in, hey, did I lock the car? Yeah, yeah, you lock the car. Okay, I take the person's word for it. But then if anything goes wrong, the fellow becomes the blamer. There you see.
So he's
So
trying.
everything,
Yeah.
so it's very volatile, I would say. So and then
Yeah.
they become the faulter. Because of you, lah, my stuff got
Yeah.
stolen.
I mean, it can be a quick a solution for all this problem, if you are one of that, whatever. But Doc, I mean, of course, we are going to jump into the next segment. But before that, we're going to finish up with this last segment here, which I think is very crucial, very important, because most of them feeling it in most MNCs, or even more small companies also. Politics, right? We're just going to maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes over this before we jump in. Even office politics, when we talk about, it is not openly talked because they worry that this video may go to someone, my boss sees me and boss fires me. The good thing or the fortunate thing right now is we are our own bosses, so we don't really care about that. But people who are working in these office settings, or with these kind of people, that 7 people in office area, they are constantly under the pressure, especially the warrior. The warrior can be a very innocent guy because he worries about every other thing. But the judge, the faulty, the loser, the give up, the blame, the whatever, they can be the one who is suppressing the warrior. It could be the result. Do you think that could be the situation? Because the warrior seems to be a very innocent, probably, because it's worrying every time. Everything you do is worry. So there shows a sign that this guy takes pride in his whatever that he do. Not the whatever guy, but the warrior itself. What is your take in
And
this, Doc?
they may be the victim at all the times, because the other
Yeah.
people will actually fault
Observation.
them. The other people will blame them. The other
Yeah.
people were the losers. I mean, you can't say anything about them. The give upper will say, "Aya, never mind, I give up. The floor will do it lah." And the whatever is never mind lah, whatever lah, the floor will do it. So you see, the the unfortunate thing is, you see,
Yeah.
if you realize for every particular society, club, office, whatever we are in, we each have a social chat group. Be it
Yep.
any media, we have a
Yep.
social chat group. And do you know that the amount of people that come in for mental health problems because of that social chat group is amazing. It's phenomenal because
Right.
I don't know what that person meant. The person may have meant it in a very nice way. I don't know what the person has meant. At the
Yeah.
same time, uh, things like, for example, the whatever or the give upper will say in a chat group. Oh, let's say it's among office colleagues lah. Let's say the boss is not there lah. Huh? About the office colleagues.
Right.
Hey, did you all submit the report today? Boss wanted the report by today. And then some fellows will say, hey, I am the loser will say, I cannot lah. This is out. The faulty will say, hey, it was X's job. Then the judge will say, yeah, X every time never do their job. Then the blamer will actually say, yeah, I tell you, X, I tell you, he is his fault lah. And then the give up, let's say it's X and Y lah, who's supposed to do. The Y will say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry lah, I cannot do it. I give up. Or the whatever it is, I don't know lah. It's not my problem. Now, the
Right.
fellow who's going to suffer is the warrior.
There you
The
go.
warrior is going to suffer because he's going to say, or she's going to say, oh my God, tomorrow I'm going to go to office. They're all going to shout at me. It is my fault, even though it's
Yes.
no fault of theirs. And they will
Ah.
end up doing the work. It is them that even though they're the most easiest to fix, but I'm worried about them the most. See, I'm the warrior now because I worry about them the most because the amount of blame, amount of load they take up
Right.
is is a different level. And you know what's the worst thing? These people tend to break down fast.
True. Correct. Because the amount of stress, they probably not
Yes,
sleeping, insomnia,
yeah.
elevated heart rate, blood pressure, loss of appetite. So that is why we are trying to narrow it down, doctor. I mean, we both agree that the warrior could be the most innocent in a company itself, because he's
So you
worrying
know
for
what?
everything.
You know what a lot of companies have done. A lot of companies which I have been dealing with. You know what? They have a strict 8 to 5 policy. That that
Right.
that social chat group only functions 8 to 5, not on public
Okay.
holidays, not on weekends. So anything
Good
that is
boss.
after 5 o'clock, which is put in that particular social chat group, can be disregarded and can be null and void because it is not something urgent.
Wow.
Unless, of course,
Right.
sorry to say, the office is on fire. Did anybody leave anything quickly because we really need to go and recover? That, yes, that one you can't wait until Monday. But if, hey, did you all submit this document today? No, no such thing. Is not is if it's a matter of life and death, then yes. If
Right.
not, it is not functioning. And in fact, a lot of officers and management impose penalties for actually putting out messages
Yeah.
after that particular stipulated period of time.
Nice. I think it is really a great initiative of the bosses or probably the middle management to come up with such protocols so that the staff can go back and have a good rest. They rest, they recover, they rejuvenate. That I call the 3 R's, and then they come back
Yeah,
fresh to the office. Not just
yeah,
squeezing in like a sugar cane. He can't come
yeah.
anymore juice, but you're still squeezing the fella until go into pieces. I can't even explain it. Just like that, doctor. I mean, it's a great example that we talked about on these 7 parrots. I think it's really interesting. I'm sure viewers also liking it. If you do like it, viewers, please do share and like. Currently, with a great conversation with Dr. Arivinder Singh HS on mental resilience, what we need to know. Doc,
People must
we are going.
understand work is work and office is office. That is
Yeah.
that is a very important bit of it. Yeah.
Doc, we're going to the last segment of the positive psychology intervention. So we talked about the parrots, we talked about the 3 Ps. We had a great chat. I mean, I've not laughed like this for a very long time, especially in the day itself. Especially when you ask Coffee for the whatever, he will just say whatever you choose. Those kind of stuff. But positive psychology interventions, before the tsunami comes in, there's an alarm. People run. People got to prepare. All right. Why do we need to wear helmet? I've been wearing helmet for 15 years. Why? What's the issue? That kind of tirapa, relax kind of corner, lepa, relax. No, you have to do those stuffs to protect yourself. So let's jump into positive psychology intervention. What could we do, either spiritually, whether you're taking a couple of days to holidays, or whether in your own state, or whether in your own country? What could we talk about in terms of interventions?
I think the most important thing which I have learned in the past is you have to know your limitations. Sometimes you must know what is your capacity. I may work 13 hours a day, but I can tell you, after, I think during the pandemic, because before the pandemic itself, I was working quite intensively.
Right.
I think it was about
Right.
2 and 3/4 years that I never actually went on a break, and I was constantly focusing. And everybody said, "Hey, COVID pandemic, you had a break." Well, I was like, "No, I'm doing talk shows, I'm doing my papers, I'm
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
statistics, I'm doing my
Right.
PhD." So at the end of the day, I realized that after the 2.5 years, when I was going into the
Right.
next quarter, I realized that I was not getting things done. I became a person who overlooked a lot of things. Then I said, this is the time which you need a break. So I remember in December 2021, I took a 4 or 5 day break. Just went up with the family, just family time. No
Right.
emails, no WhatsApps, no, sorry, no social chats, that sort of thing. And I felt that after I came back, I was ready to go again. And you can actually see that positive psychology in when, so people feel that he has cut himself off, but people must understand that cut off is more important than that person continuing to work. You know why? Because when the person come back, he's going to be, or she is going to be, more productive than what they were maybe over the last 6 months to a year. Now, a lot of people, they get caught in between, that they can't go on holiday because of something important, something this, something that, something crops up.
Yeah.
What happens? That's when they go into the slump. And when they go into the slump, it's very difficult to pick up. That's when burnout kicks in. So that is why you have to know and recognize it early.
How about a spiritual talk? Okay, we talked about holiday. You got to realize if you're feeling that you're tired, exhausted, you don't excited for things, look up for, events or parties. I mean, of course, there's no parties and events, but it's very monotonous. But looking at spiritual, because spiritual, whatever faith that we believe in, as a multiracial culture that we live in any country, especially Singapore and Malaysia at the moment, we're talking about. Because for myself, doc, I mean, I believe in all faith. I go to mosque, I go to Chinese temple. For me, it's the pleasantness. But in terms of spiritual, how spiritual can help in intervention as well, doc?
Okay. So spiritual, oops, sorry, yeah. So
Yeah, doc. Right, sorry.
spiritual basically, you can see that a lot of people, they resort to spirituality. What do they mean? They want to read more about religion. They look and take examples of their prophets. They take example of their prominent people who have held that same faith, and they
Right.
find that actually relaxes them, it relaxes them. Because sometimes in religion, you read any scriptures, like you mentioned, you can read the Holy Quran, you can read the Bible, you can read the Bhagavad Gita, you can read the Sikh Guru Granth Sahib. There's so many things you can read, and when you
Yeah.
read, it actually reminds you that, there are certain verses, especially in the Quran, and even in the Gurbani in Sikhism, where they say that whatever you are running for, and even the Bhagavad Gita says that whatever we see is all Maya, everything is
Yep.
all illusion. It's an all illusion. It is all the ones, because you want this, you want that, but what are you going to achieve end of the day? Have you got
Right.
closer to God? Have you got spirituality? Did you fulfill yourself spiritually? And you will find, actually, a lot of successful people, they've got everything in the world, but why do they go into
Yeah.
spirituality? They will take up a
Right.
religion, be it Hinduism, be it Sikhism, be it Islam, be it Christian, and any other religion. Why do that? Because they have fulfilled everything, but there's still that hollowness in them.
Right.
So actually, if you fulfill everything instead of being like a pie, where you fulfill everything and there's a big gap here, that is where it becomes a bit difficult. But if you fulfill everything equally as you go along nicely, then you find that you become wholesome. That's why they call it wholesome, because it's a
Right.
wholesome. But you will find amazingly a lot of people who venture into breathing exercises, yoga, thinking about, when I say yoga, please don't get me wrong. I'm even saying about Tai Chi. When people start doing Tai Chi, a lot of people, elderly people who come and see me, when they're having a bit of dementia, and I tell them, you go and do, and when they do Tai Chi, they come and say, hey, doc, I feel so much better after doing this
Yeah.
Tai Chi. My Muslims, brother and sisters, they have that silat, where they have that slow
Yeah.
moves. So when you tell them to do, when they come back, they say, oh, my God, I feel so much better. Why? It's because it's breaking the monotonity and it is
Yeah.
reflecting them. You connect again to nature, you connect again to peace and quiet. You're there all the time. When you do yoga, you must have peace and quiet. And you
Right.
find that that becomes very fulfilling. It may not be the yoga per se, but it may be other things that is offered by the yoga, which is not actually given, even by the Tai Chi, even by the Sila. So that is all positive
Well,
psychology and mental.
travel doc. I mean, you went through the normal road, then you went into the highway. Now it's an expressway. We are coming back again. We talk about spiritual. We talked about taking care of yourself, which is holiday. You bring a very good point on stretching, yoga, tai chi, or even the basic silats, or even qigong. Whatever that
Yes.
we talk about interventions. But along the way as well, we're going to talk about the health, which is the fitness as well. Not necessarily just go to the gym. When we talk about fitness, people have this conception: oh, do we need to go and get a membership or sign up? No, not exactly. Just doing body weight exercises or walking in the park or lifting up some weights or even rise back. Doc, during the pandemic, where in Singapore, most of the dumbbells actually all sold out because everybody was just making a gym in their own area, in their own house. So I was doing some intervention as well as other trainers as well. So we started with rice packs, 5 kg rice packs, oil, water bottles. So all these will be interventions that we talked about. But in terms of health, this is will be our last segment, doc. In terms of our health, we know that there's so much of secretions is happening in terms of our hormones, the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, everything we do. There's a hormone that is secreting. Exercise, how important, doc, in this intervention as well? Your observation, your advice.
I always believe that exercise is not only physically, is also mentally. Even though many people find it tough to believe,
Yeah.
when you run, actually people say, I feel much better mentally. But how can you're running? I mean, what
Yes, yes.
what is that? There is blood flow, but people keep forgetting that when you run, there's coordination between your left leg, right leg, your right hand, and your left hand. You
Right.
do Tai Chi, there's
Cognitive.
coordination. When you do Qigong, there's coordination. When you do Silat, there's coordination. When you do yoga, there's coordination. You don't do a half and half yoga. Everything has to move in one sequence. So when that happens, people actually they bring when you talk about brain waves, you start equaling the brain waves together, and when the brain waves are equal together, you will find that, I mean, there's no medical proof to say it, but you will find that it becomes a balance, it becomes
Yeah.
harmonious. And of course,
Yeah.
when you run, a lot of people, I always tell people, when you run, you're doing something right, or when you jog, you say, I'm doing something right. When you exercise, I'm doing something right. That is when my endorphins hormones actually get secreted, because I feel I'm doing something for myself. That's what happened. So that is why they always say, do something which makes you happy. If working makes you happy, work, because that is what is secreting your endorphins. And do you know, many people used to say that chocolates are antidepressants, because when people
Yeah.
say chocolate, they say, oh my God, this is the best thing. I've been craving for this for a long time. That itself releases endorphins, and that actually makes you happy. So it is not the chocolate per se. If you actually look at an apple, a fruit, and you say, oh
Yeah.
my God, I got an apple, and you're so happy with it. The best thing is, you always ask people who are allergic to something which they really love, like for example, a mango, and they cannot eat a mango, and they give them a chance to eat a mango. You can believe the happiness they have in themselves that they're going to have mango. So I think exercise not only improves the circulation, improves physical ability, but also mental ability and which is important for your mental resilience. But I must touch about something which is called your food intake. I have this particular
Yeah.
plate here. I don't know whether you can see, which
Right.
is very
Okay.
important. I believe this
Okay.
is something very
This is from
important.
IDs, right? From where, doctor? Where is it from?
This is a no. This is our great ideas. It
Okay,
is
IDs. Okay.
basically yeah. It is basically what you call a health segment that actually just gives these plates out for free.
Right.
So I thought it was something very great. I mean, but the point being is that you actually have things like your veggies, and then your carbohydrates, and then you have your protein and foods, again your
Nice.
carbohydrates, and then your fibers and all that. So what I'm
Right.
actually trying to say is that even though you exercise well, but after that you come out and then you go and eat much more than what you need, that may
Right.
not be the exact thing, because you will, behind your mind, you will say, I just exercise and I put something back on. But what you do is you exercise and then you start eating right. That itself helps with psychology.
Adding to that, doctor, what have you have said, just filling it up more. Coming from the fitness background, before the session, 1 hour, most of my trainees or my clients, oh, I'm going to meet you, Vance. I'm going to get tired. I'm going to get exhausted, but they still come. All right, that's the best part. They get themselves. I will not use the word slaughtered, all right, because they really enjoy it. But it's a kind of a tekan until perspiration, until showered. Okay, but do you know, Doc, after that 15, 20 minutes of recovery, post recovery, right? They feel so fresh that they didn't felt it before. They felt that the entire day, the entire week, it's like a reset button. But if that the same workout they have not implemented in that week, they become very monotonous, they're very grumpy. The seven parrots could be all in one of them. I'm not sure which parrot, but it's magical. Just exercise yourself, get your heart rate up. Of course, before exercises, please do check with your doctors before exercising and get the green light from doctors, viewers. But
Mhm.
elevating the heart rate, perspiration, working out a little bit on your muscles a bit, just body weight exercises, or even for the walk. When you do something for yourself, you appreciate, you be thankful for yourself. I think that is very important, doctor.
I agree. And also, you will find some people who actually go for swimming, or they go for a gym
Right.
every 2 or 3 times a week, or they go for
Right.
walking daily. And just for 2 3 days they don't walk, they'll feel like something is missing in their life. They'll feel like, you, I feel today I'm feeling uncomfortable, I feel like I'm got body aches. And then somebody will say, hey, you didn't go for your walk, how the heck can you get body aches? No, because you're not feeling right, because that is the issue. Because your body has become so used to that particular good feeling you're having, that you don't have that good feeling. That is when the problem starts. Let me share with you a secret which a lot of medical students know. When you're studying and studying and studying and you cannot study and nothing enters your head,
Yeah.
99% of the students either go for a walk or a run or a jog. And when they come back,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
talking about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, and they come back and they say, okay, you know what, now I'm fresh. They can now one cup of coffee and they say, okay, you know what, now it will enter my head. And it's
Right.
amazing that a lot of us, we do that, but at the same time sometimes we forget that we are doing such things. So what I'm trying to say is that exercise at certain levels really help. Of course, you must not overdo it. You must remember, like what you mentioned, a lot of people started their own gyms, and it is good when you get a trainer to actually help you. But there are a lot of them who are coming now with tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, jumper's knee. Why? Because they were doing this training, but they were doing it wrong at home, because they
Right.
had no guidance, and now they're getting repetitive stress injuries. So there is another negative side to it. But of course, if you do it well, you're trained well, or you do basic exercises which not does
Right.
not harm yourself, it can only bring good than harm.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We started with the mental resilience, what we need to know. We jump into the parrots of perception. We talked about all the seven parrots. We had a great time. We talked about the three P's of psychology, and we dissected into that. And most importantly, we went to the interventions. Doctor, before we end the show, your advice to our viewers, your tip of your advice, tip of the bug of the advice, Doctor.
I think it is high time that we realize that um, every human has a different capacity. They have different limitations. Understand that we have limitations. Understand we have different capacities, And we should identify these capacities and identify
Right.
when something is not right, because that is the first step to recovery. Self self identification, self realization is very important. If you don't have that, it is difficult. When somebody else tries to pick it up on you, it's already a place where it is actually quite advanced already. So pick it up early, get help early, seek help early, stay safe. you know if you can practice all SOPs at all time, because you know that it is something which is good for you, why not identify what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses and what are your limitations, and identify how you can work on it and whether you need help when you are struggling. If your strengths become your limitations suddenly, that means there's something wrong. That is how you identify and get things sorted out as soon as possible.
Well
Thank you, and stay
said,
safe.
Doctor. Well said. Well said. Before we end the show, Doc, we are at the last part of the seven parrots. We talked about it, the blamer, the warrior, the judge, the faulty. So, bro, you now talked about all these for the past 1 hour. We talked about it. All right. Now there's no more Doc, there's no more Vans, Kopi. Now we are really talking about the whatever, the blamer, the warrior. Who is the worst there?
Whatever the
Pick
blamer
one, I
and
will
the
pick one. All right. You pick one, I pick one. We got to pick somebody there. The worst one that you don't want to. Oh,
I
you just take.
I actually, in my field of profession, I
Yeah.
would get very worried about the whatever. The blamer may do something, but they will end up blaming someone else. The warrior will worry and they may do, but the whatever may not do anything, and that may cost someone their life. In fact, when we actually train doctors, we always look out for the whatever, because we don't like that attitude at all. Unfortunately, we have to actually pick up the other sort of attitudes as well to
Yeah.
help them. But the whatever, I would say, are dangerous habits.
Doctor, if you're
That
going to
is,
ask me what I'm going to pick it up, it's going to be tough because every one of them, I think determination is very important in life, like you just mentioned, because in your field, whatever is very important. That attitude shouldn't. But when I look at the blamer, the warrior, the judge, we talked about it for the past 40 minutes. I think the give upper. I think we shouldn't have that kind of concept. I mean, whatever attitude or behaviors one may have, life is full of challenges. When you think that is bed of roses, that's where you're going to see a thorns. You will see a thorns in the roses as well. You can't avoid that. But I think the give upper, the one we need to give him a lot of training and care and love to bring him up. But obviously, like what we talked about, it's an attitude, it's the SOP. One have to believe that they are in this situation and they have to change for remedies, for betterment in their future and in their life. Thank you, Doctor, so much for spending with me, Kopi Vance, and it's 1 hour and 10 minutes. We're going to have another Kopi session, Doc. We need to have that.
yeah, yeah, we
The
must.
last time we had it
We must, we must.
at East Coast, right? If you remember that,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
we
of
had a
course. East
beautiful,
Coast.
yeah, East Coast Spark, and it was an amazing coffee, right? We had it.
Yeah, that was really good.
Thank you, Doctor. So we will catch up real soon. Never know who will be there
Most
first,
welcome.
but keep well, and we will be touching base soon again.
Sure.
Thank you, Doctor.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Stay safe.
All right, folks. This is Vance. Obviously, you all know for the past 1.5 hours. Sorry, 1 hour 10 minutes. That was Dr. Arivinder Singh HS, our guest speaker. We have spoke about mental related issues, mental resilience topic. I think for more than five. It's always in depth. Will be dissected into it. We look at interventions. We look at what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future, probably in a predicament. And I think if we learn to identify the issues that we are facing, if we can identify the problems earlier, we can prepare. I think most of the times, even when you look at the seven parrots, these are just behaviors, just attitudes that one may have. One may refuse to change, then no one can change except you. The beautiful thing about life is we all have choices. But if that choice you don't want to make it, if that choice you don't want to pull it, and make better or greater in it, no one can help you. So before an issue comes in, we get prepared. Not to be a warrior, but preparation is the best safeguard for yourself and for your interventions. Just a few more sessions, that's a few more messages coming in. Thank you, Aresh Ramachan Lalwani, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we also have Deepam. Thank you, Deepam. Thank you, Vance and Dr. Arvinder, for informative session. Both of them are very diehard fans. They follow Dr. Arivinder Singh HS and our shows. Thank you so much. We will be back again every Wednesday, 9 p.m. But today we had a little delayed, so it was 9:30. If not, every Wednesday, 9 p.m. we will bring up a new topic. The month of July was Mental Health Awareness Month, so we specially dedicate for that. If you are suffering, or if you think, not the word suffering, if you think that you are in a kind of a struggle, and if you need help, please approach a professional. Make sure they must be a professional before you approach them, and talk to your loved ones, and they will be able to direct you to help. All right. Every problem, every challenges, there's a solution to it. We just need to be calm. We just need to be composed. And life is one heaven of a ride. So we got to conquer it and live blissfully. This is Vance from Kopi With Vans. I'm going to catch you again 9 p.m. next Wednesday with a beautiful topic. Till then, adios, amigos.